I need to start with a confession, Jeff. I own a BlackBerry. I do work at a Canadian bank, so that's my justification. I also own a Pixel. I have one of the 7 Amazon Fire phones that was sold in the San Francisco area. And if Facebook comes out with a phone, I'm sure I'll get that too. But they won't. All right, Planet Facebook. What's up with Facebook? What's next for Facebook? Last year, I pointed out here that Facebook was bigger than China. And today, it's 25% bigger than China in terms of the total number of users on the site. In terms, that's on a monthly basis. On a daily basis, it's almost as big as China. And the growth rates haven't changed at all in a year, which is pretty shocking. You don't normally see that. There's something called the law of large numbers. Maybe this is the law of massive numbers, but it hasn't hit the growth rates yet. So they're doing something right. The revenue growth rate that we on the street look at is these are the best fundamentals in the internet space, not just on the top line. 50 to 60% revenue on a 25 billion revenue base is extremely rare, and especially the consistency of that growth. It's not a product cycle company, it's a secular growth company. The consistency of that growth is extremely rare. This company is generating about 2 to 3 billion in cash flow a quarter, which gives them a lot of options to figure out what to do in the future. Can it get any better than this? Probably. This is a reversal of slides that almost everybody puts out where they show rising online penetration. And what I tried to do here is show that there's still 2/3 of all ad dollars globally are still offline. 2/3 are still offline. That total number is like 400 billion. We're 20 years into the commercialization of the internet, and still 2/3 of ad budgets are offline. So yeah, can Facebook sustain that kind of growth rate? Possibly. We also notice that there's no slowing down in advertiser interest in Facebook. So we do these semi-annual surveys with Ad Age. I think it's the largest survey that's done of marketers out there. And we've surveyed about 500 Facebook advertisers. And we asked them basic action questions. In the next 12 months, do you plan to increase, maintain, or decrease your spend with Facebook? We're waiting for that crest moment when advertisers indicate, okay, we're fine now, we're going to maintain budgets, but we haven't gotten there yet. In the most recent time we ran this, 64% of advertisers said over the next 12 months they expect to increase their ad spend with Facebook. Only 6% said they plan to decrease it. Until we see that that crest moment for Facebook, I don't think the growth is going to slow. How big could the company get? There's a great proxy out there. This is a company called Google that accounts for 15% of all advertising globally. Facebook currently is about 1/3 of that. I actually don't think that Facebook would be able to catch up to Google in terms of a percentage of overall ad spend, because they just don't have the commercial intent that Google has when people do searches for commercial items. Maybe that'll change. That's a huge hill to climb. But still, there's a proxy out there that says there's a lot more growth here at Facebook. And it also helps if you have 1 billion users. These are most of the assets, I'm sure I'm missing something, most of the assets on the internet that have 1 billion people who come to them pretty much on a daily basis. Geez, that's one of the reasons that the top 100 companies in the U.S. account for more and more percentage of GDP is that they now have more global options than they did back in the 1930s. It's a basic point. These companies, these assets have 1 billion users a day. For Facebook, it's Facebook itself, Messenger, and WhatsApp. Boy, you give a group of smart engineers 1 billion people to work with on a daily basis, they'll create opportunities. They should be able to. We also, in a report we did recently, talked about 10 key growth drivers across the internet, across technology, really across consumer internet. Over the next year, these we thought were the most important trends. And if I just think about how Facebook checks off against these, in terms of increasingly mobile usage of the internet, social ubiquity. I think Henry Blodgett in the first presentation talked about the big new trend being social video. I tend to refer to that as videoification. I think it sounds better than social video. And then there's AI and ML, artificial intelligence and machine learning. And the fifth of these 10 trends is what I call the cash pileup. Facebook checks against 5 of those, and it checks against them extremely well. So we think that's really well positioned for what I think are 5 of the 10 largest growth drivers or growth factors on the internet in the next 12 months. And we're seeing ongoing innovation. And what I've seen over the last 20 years of looking at internet companies and technology companies, when the innovation slows, inevitably the money slows and the stock gets hit. And I haven't seen that slow down on the innovation side. So this is just a couple of quick examples. The sharing capabilities that we're seeing that have been brought out on Instagram recently. The inclusion of shopping, we've got more sharing functionality, we've got more shopping functionality. At the end of the day, that's really what matters. You've got to build out the functionality of Instagram, build out the functionality of Facebook. What I see is constant moves, innovative moves that I think are allowing Facebook and Instagram to become more and more useful on a daily basis to consumers. That's a good thing for Facebook. And then there's the innovation for the other customer set. Two basic customer sets here for Facebook, the consumers and the advertisers. Here are a couple of examples of carousel ads, dynamic ads. The more innovation, the better. And this seems to be a company that kind of gets that and has gotten that for a while. And again, you have 1 billion users, your ability to do 50,000, 65,000, 70,000 tests on a daily basis. Boy, that gives you the ability to do A/B testing in a way that nobody's ever been able to do it before. Facebook, however, is not without problems, and here's the example of the fake news stories, and maybe this is a negative for Facebook, and you probably do need to somehow check quality of content. Although, look, any of us go walk outside and pick up some of the tabloids in the area, I think that's another example of fake news. And I'd also give you the point that from an advertiser perspective, you have a platform that had a few fake news articles that may have influenced the US presidential election. That sounds like a pretty influential platform to me. I'd probably want to advertise on it. There's also this other challenge coming up. It's called this company Snapchat. You may have heard of it. And last year somebody asked me about whether I thought Snapchat would continue to grow, and I think I made a really stupid statement to the effect of, probably not. It wasn't quite that simple, but never underestimate the ability of these companies, if they've got really good innovation, really good management teams with that secular tailwind behind them, to continue to grow, and we've seen that at Snapchat. So is this an issue for Facebook? We have a report coming out this week where we did this series of test surveys of about 3,000 internet users in the US, and we took them out by cohorts. So the teens, 13 to 18, 19 to 25, 26 to 35. And we asked every one of these cohorts, if you could only pick one, if you're on a deserted island, you can only pick one social media platform, who are you going to pick? And so what from this is that in every demo, 19 or over 18 years old, Facebook utterly dominates the users' interest, users' attention when it comes to where if they only could pick one, where they would go. And even in those teens, you get 28% of teens said if they could pick one, it would be Snapchat. Number 2, Facebook at 25%. And then there's the great teen hedge called Instagram that Facebook acquired a couple of years ago, one of the best acquisitions in the entire history of the internet. And I couldn't help but put in this line at the top, nobody views teens as desirable. If anybody has teenage kids at home or 3 teenage kids at home, it's a tough crowd. They're not necessarily always terribly desirable. You prefer soccer moms with the money rather than the soccer players. I'll leave it at that. All right, here we go. What's next for Facebook in a minute? The next 3 years, this is Zuckerberg. We're focused on continuing to build our community, help people share more of what matters to them. The next 5 years are about building newer products in the ecosystems. Next 10 years, building new technologies to help people connect in new ways. So here's 3 ideas, 3 examples. I touched on these last year. They're more developed this year. Facework. Okay, it's Facebook in the workplace. I was skeptical last year. What I've seen in the last year is about 1,000 organizations now are using Facebook in the workplace. It's organizations like Oxfam, but it's companies like Booking.com and Starbucks. So this is a question mark. This may be an interesting new opportunity for the company. Last year I also talked about Facebook in the marketplace or Faceplace. The advantage that Facebook has with the platform that it has is you can lay out these marketplaces, you can lay out this buy button functionality, this e-commerce functionality on the site. Hey, if it doesn't work, no big deal as long as you don't undermine the user experience. But if it works, it's all incremental usage, functionality, and eventually revenue and profits. But the third thing, and what I'm most interested in, are these messaging platforms. And people talk about these massive messaging platforms in Asia, QQ Messenger, WeChat, Kik, Line. There's 2 of them that have over 1 billion users, and Facebook owns them both. 33% of people on Facebook go to use Messenger on a daily basis, and it's a completely unmonetized asset. Got 1 billion people who use WhatsApp. It's less used in the US, very heavily used in Europe and in parts of Asia. Almost completely unmonetized asset. And if you watch these apps and you use them on a daily basis, you'll notice more and more functionality built in terms of payments, sharing, gaming. You build out the functionality, you build out the use case, they become sticky, those things get monetized. It's probably the most interesting long-term opportunity we think the company has. How big is it? Quick spreadsheet work. Just looking at how some of these other messaging platforms are monetized, we think each of those, Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp, can be generating within 3 to 5 years, $5 billion a year in revenue each. So that's it, I'll sum it up. We got an asset that's got 1.8 billion users served and consistently growing, not accelerating, not decelerating, consistently growing. You got a 28 billion ad revenue run rate, 55% ad revenue growth, extremely rare, and yet it's only 5% of global advertising spend. And I've yet to see that crest moment in advertiser demand for Facebook. Consumer and advertiser innovation continues, and we think Facebook's going to get more in your face, and we're particularly interested in the messaging opportunity with $2 billion platforms. That's probably where the biggest new source of growth will be for Facebook, and that's it.